The 2025 NFL Draft is right around the corner, so let's react to some of your guys' mock drafts that you sent in today. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd and draft expert over at horseshoehuddle.com. My partner, Jake Arthur, is not here today, but we still have a very fun show for you planned out because I asked for you guys to send me your Indianapolis Colts mock drafts using mock draft simulators before the big day next week. So I got roughly like 90 mock drafts from you guys that I'm going to be breaking down today. So you guys sent me quite a bit. I'm not going to be breaking down all 90, obviously, in this one here, but I did grab out like 13 to 14 that I thought really stood out to me. We're going to talk about what I think of the mock draft overall, maybe put like a letter grade on it, and also discuss some of the players in there. I think this is just a fun way to go through some new players we haven't talked about so far and maybe look at some different scenarios before the big day next week. So without further ado, we have a ton of picks to go through, a lot of players. I pronounce a lot of player names, so let's dive into it. Our first one we're going to be talking about here comes from my friend Patrick over on Twitter. He sent in a really different one here. That's why we're kicking off with this one here. With his first pick at 14, he picked Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher from Boston College. Second round, Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. Third round, Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia. Fourth round, safety Jonas Sanker. Fifth round, Ty Robinson, the defensive tackle from Nebraska. Round 6, we got Shmuel Mondon Jr., the linebacker from Georgia. And round 7, Trey Wettig, the tackle from Indiana. And PFF is not very high on this because he did this on the PFF mock simulator, and they actually do their grades on there. They gave him a lot of low grades for a couple guys that we've talked up on this show. My first takeaway with this one, Mondon's probably not going in round 6. I don't know why PFF is so low on Mondon. Mondon's a very good player there. And I don't see him falling all the way to round 6. You know, you get a guy with his pedigree and his athleticism there at Georgia. I see more of a third or fourth round grade on him by the actual NFL. But this is a really interesting mock draft here because Ezeraku is a player I really like in round 1, an edge rusher who had so much production last year as one of the best pass rushers in all of college football. He's a guy who I think the Colts would really be high on in a typical draft year. It's just with this draft, they kind of need to get their tight end early. But if you can guarantee Mason Taylor in round 2, then you're feeling pretty good about getting that level of pass rusher in round 1. Then to follow it up with a guy like Tate Ratledge in round 3, who certainly could fall there because of the injury history in college. He only completed 1 full season, I believe, avoiding injury in college, so you could totally see that. You get a really good third safety in Jonas Sanker, who's one of my favorite players. Ty Robinson is the perfect Chris Ballard defensive tackle, like by far and away his favorite type of defensive tackle. And Trey Wettig, a big tackle that the Colts would certainly be interested in. So I really like this mock draft. I'm much higher on it than PFF is. I really like a couple of the players here. And again, like Ezeraku would be a pick on day 1 where we're all like shaking a little bit in our boots being like, okay, what are they going to do at tight end? But if you can get Mason Taylor in round 2, I think this mock draft makes a lot of sense. And I think it's one that I'd really be looking at for the Colts and be excited about. So certainly a big fan of this mock draft here, as long as you're getting guys like Taylor and Ratledge. So you're playing with fire a little bit here, Patrick. But I do like this mock draft. And as DSG Goodbar says in the comments, definitely a Chris Ballard style draft. I think this certainly fits the Ballard mold of getting those trench players early, but still addressing that tight end position. So I do like this mock draft from Patrick. I give it like a B+ or an A. I mean, I don't really have many concerns here outside of PFF just not liking our boy Mondon that we're very high on here on the show. But outside of that, very good mock draft here, Patrick. As good as, a grade you could give someone a potential mock draft before next week. Let's move on to our next one. Our guy Cordell here used a different site. Looks like it's called mockdraftcentral.ia. So if you guys have used that one, let me know what you think of that one here. And obviously he goes with the two ideal Colts picks in the first 2 rounds, Tyler Warren in round 1, Carson Schwarzenegger in round 2. Then we got edge rusher Braden Swinson out of LSU in round 3. Ozzie Trapilo, offensive tackle from Boston College in round 4. Jackson Slater, the guard from Sacramento State in round 5. Jaden Blue, the running back from Texas in round 6. And Jalen Smith, the corner from USC in round 7. So obviously, again, at the top of this draft, I think if the Colts could project this thing out perfectly, like the way that they really want it come draft day, the Tyler Warren and Carson Schwarzenegger is their dream first 2 picks. Warren is everything they're looking for at tight end. Schwarzenegger is a guy that obviously Lou Anarumo is enamored with. I mean, he's been to 1 pro day this offseason. It was the UCLA pro day. And obviously there's just the one big name there on that UCLA defense. So Lou Anarumo is very big on Carson Schwarzenegger. So I think those would be home run first 2 picks there. Really interesting pick there in round 3 with Braden Swinson, a player who kind of is like the Laiatu Latu type of mold for the Colts in terms of, will the Colts overlook some of the measurables to go for that production? Swinson was a fantastic producer in college, had a really high pass rush win rate and win percentage, did some really good things there in college. So I could totally see that right there. And then Ozzie Trapilo, a big offensive tackle with sweet feet, good pass blocker. Not exactly the Colts fit, but close to the Colts fit to where I think in round 4 they'd look at him. Jackson Slater, the Colts really do like him. I could totally see him being a round 5 player for the Colts. They are very, very high on Jackson Slater. Jaden Blue, Texas connection. The Colts love Texas. You get that next level speed, and Jalen Smith, a good project corner. So again, this is another mock draft where I think the Colts would kind of be salivating over this if this is what they ended up with, because those first 2 picks are really their dream picks. And then you get Swinson there in round 3, who can be a long-term edge rusher for you. You get that offensive line depth, and you get that next level speed at running back and a project corner. So again, Cordell, pretty good draft here. Maybe I'm being too optimistic and too positive for you guys here, but I'm loving these mock drafts so far. Now, again, I did curate which ones I picked, so maybe because I avoided, I think Max is in the comment section here. Max sent me like an all kicker one just to irk me a little bit. Like, I'm not picking that one for the show, obviously. So maybe it's because I curated it a little bit here. But I do like this pick for sure here. We're going to go with Brandon here next. Brandon's got Tyler Warren, obviously, in round 1, because Tyler Warren, I think, is the favorite to be the Colts pick at 14. We got a slight trade back in round 2 to pick up Wyatt Milam, the offensive guard from West Virginia. Then we got TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. Shmuel Mondon Jr., the linebacker from Georgia. There at pick 109, a little bit better of a pick for him there. Damian Martinez, the running back from Miami at 117. Zav Frazier, the corner from UTSA. Kyle McCord, the quarterback from Syracuse. Ty Hamilton, the defensive tackle from Ohio State. And Seth Coleman, the edge from Illinois. A big shout out to Brandon, because obviously he's reading my 30 Days of Colts Fits articles there. I think at least like 4 or 5 of these guys have been in that article series. Zav Frazier one was actually just released today over there at the site. But yeah, another one I really like here, Brandon. I think it's interesting because like Milam, I think, is going a little high in this mock draft, but I'm fine with him at 48, especially for trading back. I'm a big fan of TJ Sanders. I like the athletic upside and what he can do as a pass rusher. Shmuel Mondon Jr., we talked so much about Mondon at this point. I'm not even going to go too much into him here. Martinez, I actually think Martinez goes in like that late round 2 to round 3-ish range. So that might be a little bit too late for him. Frazier's another guy who's getting a lot of buzz that could sneak into the comp pick range of round 3, but round 5, I think he could certainly fall there. Kyle McCord, I think the Colts are uniquely positioned to support a player like McCord because they play in a dome, and really the biggest issue with him is when he's playing in like bad outdoor areas and stuff like that. So if you can get him in a dome, get him a little bit cleaner environment, I think he can be a pretty good quarterback. Ty Hamilton, I think, is another player who could go a little bit earlier, could go like round 3 or 4, but if you can get him in round 7, more power to you there. And Seth Coleman, I think, is a fantastic like round 7 project player for sure. Big fan of Seth Coleman. I just did a write-up on him the other day as well. So I like this mock as well. Maybe not as high as the other 2, just because Milam's maybe a little bit of a reach. Sanders, I do like Sanders there, but maybe some other defensive tackles. And a couple other players are probably valued a little bit weird by the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator here. But another really, look, if they got this mock draft, I'd be pretty pumped with this mock, because if you're getting Mondin and Martinez and Frazier and Hamilton, like, you're coming away feeling pretty good. And obviously you get your top guy in Tyler Warren as well. So yeah, we are loving these mock drafts so far. Maybe I'm just going to be super positive today. I think that's the vibe I'm taking. But coming up, guys, we're going to keep diving into more of your guys' mock drafts and go through the ups and downs. And we have a couple random players coming up to the round 1 range with a few of these next mock drafts. So we're going to dive into those here in just a second. All right, but did you guys ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights is one of the best parts about it. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget a little bit smarter, and I try to eat. I'm on this like sandwich kick right now at home, just making a lot of sandwiches instead. And things like Monarch Money has really helped me just kind of refresh where I'm spending that money, and just buying sandwiches at home instead of eating out all the time. And you also get that easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can just track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back churning through these mock drafts that you guys sent me. Again, I got like 90 plus from you guys this earlier today is when I really put it out there. So I got like 90 something from you guys, and we're going through about 12 to 13 on this because I just can't talk for that long here. But we're going to dive into the next one here. This next one is from Big Blue Football. So Big Blue Football, again, Tyler Warren in round 1. We're not going to dive too much into that. 45, we got Jonas Sabanai from Arizona, the offensive guard, or tackle 2 offensive guard. We got Pooh Paul in round 3 at 80, the linebacker from Ole Miss. CJ West, the defensive tackle from Indiana. In round 4, round 5, Dylan Sampson, the running back from Tennessee. Aeneas Peebles, the defensive tackle from Virginia Tech. And Connor Colby, the guard from Iowa, to round it all out. I will say with this mock draft, I'm kind of torn because Savanaya, I think it's Savanaya from Arizona. I do like him there at 45, maybe not as much as like a Ratledge or some other guys, but I'm perfectly fine with him there. Pooh Paul, I don't really love for the Colts system. I think he's a good run and chase backer, and I think there's some potential in coverage for him, but from what I saw, like Ole Miss took him off the field on a lot of like pure passing downs this past year. And when you look at the Colts, they really need a pass coverage linebacker, and Paul just didn't really get many reps at it last year. I think he can get there one of these days. It's just, I really would rather prefer, again, guys like a Mondin or maybe like a Jack Kaiser on day 3 or Schlesinger, who have proven that they can cover in college, where Paul is a little bit more of a projection. So the day 2 picks, I don't absolutely love here from Big Blue Football, but day 3 is awesome. So it's hard for me to really hate on this because CJ West is one of my favorite players in the draft. Aeneas Peebles, a guy who I would be perfectly comfortable taking in round 4, because of that pass rushing upside. And then Connor Colby is a guard that I'm much higher on than most of the people who have done this draft stuff. I had like a round 4 grade on him. Most people have him like around 6 or 7, like this mock draft simulator. So I'm a little torn on this mock draft. I'm a little lower on day 2, but I really love that day 3 stuff. Yeah, big fan of day 3. I love the day 3. And also, one of the comments here was, this draft took 2 defensive tackles, and that might be a little bit much, but it's 2 different defensive tackles. Peebles, more of your 3 tech, your pass rusher type guy, where West, you can play a little bit more of that 1 tech and backup nose tackle. So I really do think that this is like, if you're going to take 2 different defensive tackles, take 2 guys that are very different roles and different vibes. So take guys like West and Peebles, and I'd be perfectly happy there. So another fun mock draft, good mock draft here. Let's see if we can get some other changes here. Next one is by Wiz OP Indy, and I knew this one would be one of the crazier ones here. Wiz OP Indy traded out of the first round entirely from 14 all the way back to 34. It looks like he picked up multiple second-round picks, or like 2 seconds and a third as well. He picked up a lot of extra picks here in this trade. And at 34, he took guard Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, then took Mason Taylor, the tight end from LSU, Travion Henderson from Ohio State, CJ West from Indiana, Smal Munden Jr. from Georgia, Jonas Sanker from Virginia, Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, and Curtis Rourke from Indiana. And he also picked up a 2026 second-round pick from the Cleveland Browns, which might end up being like a top, 35 pick in next year's draft. So this is probably the craziest one I threw in here just because I thought it was fascinating to see one where somebody traded out of the first round entirely. But honestly, it's a pretty darn good draft for me. Again, you get some of my guys like West and Mondon Jr. And Mason Taylor. Like, I'm really happy with those picks there. You get a true difference maker at running back. Now, Henderson's probably not falling to 67 come draft day. I think it's more likely he goes up into like the round 1 range than falls to 67. But maybe you replace him with, like a Damian Martinez in this mock draft scenario. You get a really good guard in Jackson. You get players like Sanker and Parrish who are really good, day 3 producers at defensive back. And then you get that second rounder next year. I'm not saying this is what I would do. It's just, man, you're kind of getting a lot more players here. And I think it's really interesting to get that amount of players. So yes, obviously losing out on that top 15 pick is tough, and I think it does hurt this mock draft here because you're losing the potential of a Jahad Campbell or, Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, whoever it's going to be in round 1, but you're making up for it with quantity. You're getting so many quality players that can come in and fill a role for your team that I think it's really interesting, and you're adding a top 35 pick in next year's draft, which might be much stronger of a draft. So honestly, if the Colts did this come draft day, I wouldn't despise it. I wouldn't hate it. It wouldn't be my super ideal pick. Just, might move some picks around here. But I think this is an interesting one from Wiz OP Indy there. Very, very interesting one indeed. Next up, we got from Miralem, I believe is how you say it here. Again, another one where I think he traded back a couple times. We got Colston Loveland in round 1. Round 2, Donovan Jackson yet again. Smal Munden Jr. I think I think I've talked all of you guys into Mondon Jr. there as that linebacker in the round 3 to 4 range. We got Jonas Sanker in round 4, RJ Harvey, the running back from UCF, in round 5, Kyle McCord in round 5 again, and then a couple guards late and Marcus Tate and Willie Lampkin. So we've already talked about a lot of these players here, but I wanted to use this one to talk about Loveland, getting Loveland in round 1. I really think Loveland, to me, isn't the perfect fit for the Colts, but I think if you're sitting there and Warren's gone, or maybe you're just trying to weigh the long-term potential of both players, Loveland might have higher potential long-term as a pass catcher and just overall player. So I could totally see a team like the Colts falling in love with a guy like Loveland, and then you're getting some good players like Jackson and Mondon Jr. and Sanker, some of my favorite players. I think some of you guys were playing up to my favorites with these mock drafts by taking so much of Mondon and Sanker. You guys were trying to get those good grades for me. I totally get it. I really like the RJ Harvey pick there on day 3. Willie Lampkin, maybe you move him to fullback because, he's 270 pounds trying to play center, but he was good at it in college. So he's a hard player to project for this draft here. But, I think this might have been a little bit much on the guards here, but I do like the overall players added to the team in this mock draft, especially getting, again, guys like Mondon and Jackson, 2 guys that I really like there. Let's hit on another one real quick. Clear my throat real quick. All right, let's hit another one here before our break. We got one from Brian. We got Jahad Campbell in round 1. We have not had a Jahad Campbell one up here in a minute. So Jahad Campbell. Then we got Kevin Winston Jr., the safety from Penn State, in round 2. Tate Ratledge, round 3. Ashton Gillette in round 4. Benjamin Urosek in round 5, the tight end from Georgia. Cameron Jackson, defensive tackle from Florida, in round 6. And then round 7, Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU. And this one, man, PFF loved this one on the simulator here. Got A+ across the board here. And I think this is one that feels very Ballard as well, because you get that blue chip defensive player at the top of the draft. You get just a really steady and like sturdy safety. Maybe again, you're going too high at safety here in round 2 when you have 2 guys on your roster you already like. But Winston, I think, is a really good physical safety that can play a lot of roles for you. You get your guard in Ratledge, Gillette, high-end athlete who has very nice physical tools. If you get Gillette in round 4, you're celebrating. The only real issue here is we might have to make some more moves at tight end after the draft. We might have to overpay sending a pick to the Eagles for Goddard, or sending a pick to the Raiders for Mayer. Like, you can't really go into next year with Urasek as your main tight end. But aside from that, I do like a lot of what's going on here, especially Jahad Campbell. Like, I think if Jahad Campbell didn't have the shoulder injury, I think this would certainly be a very realistic type of draft for the Colts. It's just with that shoulder injury, we don't know how long he's going to be out next year. Will the Colts take Jahad Campbell with him potentially missing, a month or 2 of the season and being behind the 8 ball? But besides that, I really like this pick. You guys know Jahad Campbell's a top 10 player for me in this draft, so A+ here. I love Jahad Campbell. A lot of A+ across the board. Again, I love your guys' mock drafts. I put a lot of the good ones in here. Maybe next time I'll put some of the awful ones. One person took all Jalen's in his, and that was great. It was like 15 Jalen's with all his trade backs. So you guys keep sending them in. They're a blast there. But coming up, we're going to try to finish this off. We're going to get through some more. I've gone through, 7 so far, 8 so far. We got to get through the other 4 or 5 I have in here. So coming up, we're going to dive into more of your guys' mock drafts. All right, but first, the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, you can join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet. You'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's just picking my favorite team or diving into player props, from 3-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim $250 in bonus bets today. All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, I appreciate you bearing with me while we're just ripping through all these mock drafts that you guys just sent me. A lot of positives so far, a lot of really interesting ones so far. There were a couple I really wanted to get to. Let's see if I have them coming up next. This next one here from Matt, obviously Colston Loveland, Carson Schlesinger, Dylan Fairchild, CJ West, Malachi Moore, Corey Kiner, Dante Trader. I really like this one because, again, you're getting an ideal round 1 and 2 combination with the tight end and Schlesinger. I think Dylan Fairchild's a really interesting round 3 pick, very good athlete at guard. And then you're getting some really interesting and versatile day 3 players in Malachi Moore and Dante Trader Jr. So, yeah, a couple players we've already talked about so far. But, again, Fairchild, I think, is a new name that I think is really interesting. Malachi Moore, I'm very high on, out of Alabama. And Dante Trader Jr. can play some of that nickel and play some deep safety as well. So a really good, interesting one here from Matt. We got one from someone called Flux Capacitor, which another new site here. I think this is the ESPN Analytics site here. So another interesting one. We got Colston Loveland in round 1. Omar Norman Lott, the defensive tackle from Tennessee, in round 2. Marcus Bowe, the offensive lineman from Purdue, in round 3. And then we get some of the common names after that. Smal Munden Jr., Ty Hamilton, Malachi Moore, and I think it's Jaquandon Jackson, running back from Arkansas there at the end. So again, we have the usual guys there on day 3. Love the day 3 picks there. I've been hyping those guys up this whole draft season. But Omar Norman Lott is super interesting there in round 2 because the flashes we got in his production in college would say, yeah, that is totally warranted of the pick right there. Omar Norman Lott, the pass rushing upside is so good on film. It's just, how much is he going to be able to do that in the NFL, and can he get better as a run defender? Because, the Colts are trying to replace Dayo Odeyingbo, and if you're trying to replace Dayo Odeyingbo, a guy like Norman Lott can rush on passing downs and be that Dayo replacement, but he's not going to give you that backup nose tackle that you're looking for, and that's why I think this mock is cool, because you added Ty Hamilton to it, and Ty Hamilton can be that backup nose tackle. So, Omar Norman Lott, I really like him there, maybe a little bit too high there in round 2, but The pass rushing upside is great with him. And then Marcus Bowe, a true 5-position caliber offensive lineman who can play center, I think, at the highest level. I think he can play guard. He can play some tackle. If you can get him in round 3, I'm pretty pumped about that right there. So, yeah, I think this is a good mock draft. I do like Bowe. I think it's a little bit smaller. So, I don't know how much the Colts will value a player like Bowe, especially when they already have 2 centers they like on the team. But again, when you get into round 3, you're just trying to get some value. I think Bowe in round 3 is some great value. So I think that'd be a really good one here. At number 10, we got one from Max. And Max, I am ignoring your other one, but I do like this one here. So we will talk about this one. We got Tyler Warren at round 1, of course. Then we got a trade back, a slight trade back with the Denver Broncos to pick up Travion Henderson. Then we got Wyatt Milam in round 3, Ty Robinson in round 4, Smal Munden Jr. in round 4, Miles Frazier in round 5, a couple interesting players in Fadil Diggs, Hunter Wohler, and Za Frazier to round it out. Now, I believe, Max, if we're going off of the PFF grading system, this is probably like one of the lowest overall graded ones according to them on the site, probably like the bottom 2% among all Colts draft picks on their site. So according to PFF, you really bundled this one here, buddy. You really screwed up with this one, but I'm going to be a bit higher on this one than I think PFF is for you. I personally obviously would go crazy for Henderson in round 2. Again, it might be a luxury pick, but Henderson's just a stud, and I think he'd be a fantastic RB2 here. Milam, I think, is the ideal Colts type of tackle guard guy. Robinson, very Ballard. Mondin, PFF hates him. I love him. What are you going to do there? Miles Frazier, I think, is a really interesting round 3 or 4 option for the Colts. Just fits so much of what they want. A guy who played left tackle at Florida Atlantic, moved inside with LSU, very athletic, very long arms, very much a Chris Ballard type of offensive lineman. And then Wohler is very similar to like a JoJo Doman that they liked years ago. Za Frazier, the ideal Chris Ballard and Lou Anarumo corner. So yeah, PFF, they might hate you here, Max, but I think this is good. I think this is pretty good here. I think these are good players. Obviously, Mondin, we're pretty high on them on here too. So a good mock draft here. Good mock draft. We have Philippe in the comments here, so let's go to Philippe's mock draft and just rip it apart. But no, Philippe also moved out of round 1 entirely. He dove back to pick 38 to get Mason Taylor. He also got Donovan Jackson in round 2, Darius Alexander in round 3, Andrew Makuba, shocker there. He took Andrew Makuba in round 3, Smal Munden Jr. in round 3 as well, Damian Martinez, Kyle McCord, and then Dalton Cooper to round it out, while also picking up New England's 2nd round pick next year. Again, so risky to move out of round 1 in this draft with the Colts' big need at tight end and also just maybe needing a difference maker in general. But if you're picking up like New England's 2nd round pick next year, a top 35 pick, top 36 pick next season, and you're also just getting this crazy haul of players from a guy like Darius Alexander who can step in from day 1 and be a fantastic pass rusher. Andrew Makuba, who can be this awesome like nickel safety hybrid, just playmaker off the bench. Mondin, crazy. We're talking about him again. Very good player there. Mason Taylor, a day 1 starting tight end. Donovan Jackson, day 1 guard. Like, if you're getting a haul like this, I think it's worth talking about. Now, again, will Colts fans on draft night be excited to seeing the Colts moving out of round 1? Probably not. But again, if you're getting like this on day 2, I think we could all come to grips with it there. But Philippe, I do think this is an interesting mock, and I wouldn't hate it. I mean, again, if you're getting Taylor, Jackson, Alexander, Makuba, and Monton on day 2, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining whatsoever there. Let's go through 2 more really quick here before I run out of time and run out of my ability to speak right now because I'm struggling without Jake on this episode. We got one from Jacob, not Jake, from Jacob, that where the Colts take Derek Harmon at 14, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Then we go Mason Taylor, Demetrius Knight in round 3, the linebacker from South Carolina, Logan Brown, the tackle from Kansas in the 4th round, Noel Williams in round 5, Jarquez Hunter from Auburn, the running back in round 6, and then round 7, the super freak athlete Elijah Ponder from Cal Poly, the edge rusher. Man, I really like Derek Harmon. I really, really do. I don't know if the Colts have the luxury to just go and get that best player available at 14 just because they have pressing needs. And this is kind of a must-win season for the Colts. But if they had filled tight end in the offseason and maybe like filled linebacker a little bit better in the offseason, I'd be all about Derek Hartman at 14. I think he's going to be a fantastic NFL player. And I'm kind of bummed that I can't really consider him at 14 because of that. Knight, a bit older of a prospect, not the greatest in coverage, but just flies around, a big-time thumper. Third round, maybe a little bit early for him, but very, very good player there. Logan Brown, really interesting guard, offensive tackle type of prospect there in round 4. Williams, competitive corner. So yeah, I like this one here. Probably not ideal for what the Colts are going for because, again, you probably want, Warren or Loveland or Jahad Campbell and all that stuff there. So very, very good there. And then one more, we got Kenan Kosenko, our boy. And this is one that I think could happen. Again, PFF despises Kenan for this one. They hated this one, but we got a slight trade back for Tyler Booker in round 1, and then a slight trade up in round 2 for Mason Taylor. And then we go Damian Martinez, Smile Mondon, Ty Robinson, Malachi Moore, Zal Frazier. So all the usual suspects after that. But I wanted to add this one because if the Colts miss out on Loveland and Warren, which I don't think is likely, but it could happen. I mean, you never know what's going to happen on draft day. I do think that it's very realistic that the Colts go after someone like Booker or Gray Zabel or something like that in round 1. Because if they miss out on getting that tight end in round 1, I do foresee them looking at the offensive line and looking at guard in particular with guys like Booker or Zabel. So I think this is a realistic possibility one here. Again, PFF might hate it. Some of you guys in the comments might hate it. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but I'm trying to hit, all the ones here. But yeah, it's a very realistic one because I think if the Colts pivot from tight end, it would be guard in that first round. But we'll see what happens. As of today, I think they're going to go tight end with that first pick. But, there might be a crazy scenario where both Loveland and Warren are gone. And then they're stuck with the scenario of, do we take the best guard here with a couple guards that we like up here? Or do we reach like crazy for Mason Taylor, which they probably wouldn't do? So a lot of things could happen come draft day, but that is all I have for today, guys. I do want to appreciate yet again, you guys sending in like 90 something of these. I hustled through 13 without Jake here and I wanted to get to more, but my throat is on fire. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Colts and making us your first listen. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.